The message came at 14:32 Universal Standard Time on a Tuesday that would change everything. Every radio, every communication device, every screen across human space suddenly displayed the same image. A massive alien creature with 6 arms and burning red eyes. People of Earth. The creature spoke in perfect English, though its mouth moved wrong for the sounds. I am High Commander Zixtal of the Galactic Confederation. Your species has been judged unfit for continued existence. You have 72 standard hours to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, we will remove every human from this galaxy. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. Silence fell across Earth's orbital stations first, then spread down to the planet below like a wave of shock. In the International Space Station, Commander Sarah Chen floated motionless, staring at the now blank screen. Around her, her crew members from 12 different nations looked at each other with wide eyes. Did that really just happen? Whispered Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the Japanese physicist. Replay it, Chen ordered quietly. They watched it again and again. Each time the aliens' words were the same. Each time the threat was clear and absolute. On Earth, emergency meetings began immediately. In Washington, the president sat in the Situation Room surrounded by generals and advisors. In Moscow, the premier called for an emergency session of the Security Council. In Beijing, London, Delhi, and Brasilia, world leaders stared at screens showing the same impossible message. But something strange happened in those first hours. Something no one expected. The panic everyone predicted never came. Instead, a calm settled over humanity that felt almost unnatural. In the Pentagon, General Morrison studied satellite feeds of major cities. He expected riots, looting, mass hysteria. Instead, he saw people going about their daily lives. Traffic moved normally. Stock markets stayed stable. Children played in parks while their parents watched the sky with quiet interest. "Sir," his aide said carefully, "the public reaction is unusual." Morrison nodded slowly. "Get me Admiral Hayes on the line, and wake up the Prometheus Committee. Sir, Prometheus has been dark for 40 years. The files are sealed under— Wake them up," Morrison repeated. His voice carried a weight that made the young officer step back. Across the planet, similar conversations were happening. In underground bunkers that officially didn't exist, old men and women received phone calls they had been waiting decades to answer. Facilities that appeared on no map suddenly came alive with activity. Deep in the mountains of Colorado, massive doors that hadn't opened since the 1980s began to slide apart with a sound like thunder. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in her laboratory beneath MIT, watching screens full of data she had spent 30 years collecting. Around her, equipment that had been dormant for decades hummed to life. Her team moved with practiced efficiency, though some of them had gray hair now. "Ma'am," her assistant called out. "We're getting confirmation signals from Luna Base, Mars Station, and all the deep space arrays." Elena smiled for the first time in years. "Good. Send the activation codes to all Shepard installations, and contact the Vatican archives. Tell them we need the Prometheus files." "The Vatican, ma'am." "Trust me, Dr. Kim. They've been expecting this call." In orbit around Earth, what appeared to be simple research stations began to change. Panels slid back to reveal arrays of equipment that didn't match any known human technology. Solar collectors that were supposed to power laboratories turned out to be something else entirely. Construction workers who had built these stations years ago would not have recognized them now. Captain Maria Santos commanded one of these research stations. As she watched her crew work, she remembered the day 15 years ago when she had been recruited for this assignment. The interviewer had asked her one question: "Are you prepared to wait your entire career for a war that might never come?" She had said yes. Now, watching alien ships appear on long-range sensors, she was glad she had. The alien fleet was massive. Thousands of ships, some as large as cities, moving in perfect formation toward Earth. They would arrive in exactly 71 hours and 23 minutes. The countdown had begun, but on Earth something else was beginning too. In the deepest vaults of government installations around the world, seals were broken on projects so classified they had no names. Only numbers. Project 7731, Initiative 99902, Protocol 4456. Men and women who had kept these secrets for decades finally spoke them aloud. President Williams sat in her office, reading files that made her hands shake. "How long have we known?" she asked the old man sitting across from her. Since 1962, General Harrison replied. He was 87 years old and had been keeping this secret for 60 years. We spotted their scouts that year, decided it was better to be ready than sorry. All this time we've been preparing for this exact scenario? Not just preparing, Madam President, planning. Every human colony, every space station, every diplomatic contact with other species. It was all designed to look weak and disorganized while we built what we really needed. The President looked out her window at the peaceful city below. And the people? Do they know? Harrison's smile was cold and satisfied. No, ma'am, but they will. And when they do, you'll understand why we've been so confident all these years. 23 hours after the alien ultimatum, Earth sent its reply. It was broadcast on all frequencies in all languages to every corner of human space and beyond. The message was simple. Acknowledged. We'll be ready. But it wasn't the words that made alien intelligence officers pause their recordings and play them again. It wasn't the calm, professional tone of the human diplomat who delivered them. It was what happened in the background of the transmission. As the human spoke, other humans could be seen moving behind him. And every single one of them was smiling, not the desperate grins of people facing death, but the patient, satisfied expressions of those whose time had finally come. The alien analysts studied those faces for hours, trying to understand what they saw there. It was only later, as human ships began appearing on sensors where no ships should exist, that they began to comprehend the truth. Those weren't the smiles of people preparing to die. They were the smiles of people preparing to hunt. In the deep black of space, human vessels that had been hidden for decades powered up their engines. On worlds that seemed empty, underground cities opened their blast doors. And across the galaxy, the pieces of humanity's greatest plan began to move into position. The aliens had declared war on Earth. They had no idea that Earth had been waiting for this moment for over a century. The countdown continued, 48 hours and 37 minutes, until the alien fleet arrived. But for the first time, since the ultimatum, the aliens were beginning to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. The alien fleet hung in space like a dark cloud of death, massive ships blocking out entire starfields. High Commander Zixtel stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the tactical display show thousands of vessels under his command. This should have been simple. Humans were a young species, barely 2 centuries in space. They had small colonies, weak ships, and no real military force. Yet something felt wrong. Commander, his intelligence officer called out, her voice tight with confusion. You need to see these reconnaissance reports. Zixtel moved to the display, his 6 arms folding behind his back in a gesture of attention. The screen showed feeds from scout ships that had been observing human settlements for the past day. What am I looking at? He demanded. This is from New Geneva colony, sir. Population about 50,000 humans. The officer's hands trembled as she operated the controls. Watch their behavior after receiving our ultimatum. The footage played. Zixtel expected to see panic. Evacuation ships fleeing. Military forces scrambling in desperation. Instead, he saw humans calmly walking through their city streets. Children played in parks. Adults sat in cafes, drinking what his files said was called coffee. Many of them were smiling. Perhaps they don't understand the threat, suggested his tactical advisor. Show me Earth, Zixtel ordered. The next feed made his blood run cold. Earth's major cities showed the same impossible calm. But worse than that, he could see construction happening. Massive projects that seemed to have appeared overnight. Structures rising from the ground that his computers couldn't identify. Sir, the intelligence officer whispered. There's more. Show him the deep space readings. New data appeared on the screen. Energy signatures that didn't match any known human technology. Ships appearing on sensors where none had been detected before. Facilities coming online that had never existed on any intelligence report. How is this possible? Zixtal's voice carried the first note of uncertainty he had felt in centuries of conquest. His science advisor, a thin creature with too many eyes, stepped forward nervously. Commander, I've been analyzing their technology signatures. These energy reading. They're not from any civilization in our database, meaning either humans have been hiding technology far beyond what we believed possible or... The advisor paused, afraid to continue. Or what? Or they've been planning for this war much longer than we thought. Zixtal stared at the displays showing human space. 47 hours remained until his fleet would reach Earth. According to every simulation, every battle plan, every intelligence report, this should be the easiest conquest in Confederation history. So why did he feel like he was flying into a trap? On Earth, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in what had once been called the Deep Space Observatory. Now, as panels slid away to reveal its true purpose, she could see it for what it really was, the most powerful targeting system ever built by human hands. All stations report ready, her assistant announced. Luna Base, armed and ready. Mars installations, online and tracking multiple targets. Deep space platforms, all 37 platforms report weapons hot and ready. Elena nodded, watching the tactical display that showed the approaching alien fleet. Each ship was marked with targeting data that had been collected over months of careful observation. The aliens thought they were being clever, hiding at the edge of human sensor range. They had no idea that humans had been watching them since the day they entered this system. "Ma'am," a technician called out, "we're getting reports from the scout teams." "What kind of reports?" "First contact with alien reconnaissance ships. The removal has begun." Elena's smile was cold and professional. "Good, make sure there are no survivors. We're not ready to show our hand yet." In the black space between worlds, something that looked like a standard human cargo ship drifted slowly toward an alien scout vessel. The alien sensors showed it as exactly what it appeared to be: a simple transport with basic shields and no weapons. The alien captain, a creature with scaled skin and 3 eyes, laughed at his crew. "Look at this. They're sending cargo ships against us. These humans truly are primitive." He ordered his ship to move closer, planning to capture the vessel and interrogate its crew. It would be good intelligence before the main assault. The human ship seemed helpless, drifting without power. The alien tractor beam locked onto it and began pulling it closer. The captain activated his communication system to demand surrender. He never got the chance to speak. The human ship simply vanished. Not destroyed, not disabled, gone as if it had never existed. In its place, something else appeared. Something that hurt to look at. That bent space around itself in ways that made the alien crew's eyes water. The alien ship's computers screamed warnings about impossible energy readings, about physics violations, about weapons that couldn't exist. Then the warnings stopped because the computers stopped. Because everything stopped. When the silence ended, there was nothing left but empty space and a faint energy signature that would puzzle alien scientists for years to come. Similar encounters happened across the edges of human space. Alien scouts, confident in their advanced technology and superior numbers, simply vanished. No distress calls, no debris, no evidence they had ever existed. In the Confederation Fleet's command center, reports poured in from reconnaissance teams. Alpha Squadron. Report status, silence. Beta team, what's your position? Static. Any scout team, please respond. Nothing. Zixtal stared at the tactical display as one by one, his advance forces disappeared from the screen. Each time, the last sensor reading was the same. The scouts had detected what appeared to be harmless human vessels. Then, nothing. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we've lost contact with all forward reconnaissance. 17 ships in total." 17 ships don't just disappear, Zixtal snarled. The last sensor data from Scout Team 5 shows they encountered a human research vessel. Standard configuration, minimal armament. Then the recording cuts off. The High Commander studied the data, his mind working through possibilities. Either the humans had some kind of stealth technology beyond anything in Confederation files, or what if those weren't research vessels? He said quietly. His staff turned to look at him. What if nothing we've seen from humans is what it appears to be? The science advisor brought up new displays. "Commander, I've been running analysis on the energy signatures we detected from human space. If I'm reading this correctly, some of these installations have been active for decades. Hidden, but active. Hidden how? I don't know, sir. The technology required would be..." The advisor paused, looking frightened. "It would be far beyond what we believed humans possessed." Zixtal felt something he hadn't experienced in 200 years of conquest. Doubt. How long have they had this technology? If these readings are accurate, potentially since before we made first contact with them. The implications hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. If humans had possessed advanced technology when they first encountered the Confederation decades ago, if they had deliberately appeared weak and primitive— "Sir," the tactical officer interrupted, "we're detecting new contacts throughout human space. Ships that weren't there an hour ago. Show me." The display updated and Zixtel's 6 arms went rigid with shock. What had appeared to be empty space around human colonies now showed hundreds of contacts. Ships, stations, defensive platforms, an entire hidden fleet that had somehow remained invisible until now. "How many?" he whispered. "Preliminary count shows over 3,000 vessels, sir. And the number keeps growing as more come online." The command bridge fell silent except for the hum of computers trying to process data that shouldn't exist. In the space of 6 hours, humans had revealed a military force that rivaled the entire Confederation fleet. "Sir," the communications officer said carefully, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." "Put it through." The main screen activated, showing a human woman in what appeared to be a military uniform. She was middle-aged, with gray hair and calm eyes that seemed to look directly at Zixtel. "Hi, Commander," she said pleasantly. "My name is Admiral Sarah Chen, commanding officer of Earth's Home Defense Fleet. I wanted to personally welcome you to our system and let you know how excited we are for your arrival." Zixtel found his voice. "You face annihilation, human. Your species will be removed from the galaxy." Admiral Chen's smile never wavered. "Oh, I don't think so. You see, we've been preparing for this conversation for quite some time, and we're very much looking forward to showing you what we've learned." The transmission ended, leaving the alien bridge in stunned silence. Outside the viewports, space itself seemed to shimmer as more human vessels appeared from nowhere, taking positions around the approaching Confederation fleet. 36 hours remained until the original deadline, but Zixtel was beginning to realize that the deadline might not be his to control after all. The war began at exactly 00 Bauden Universal Standard Time, 12 hours before the Confederation's deadline expired. The aliens had intended to make the first move, but humanity decided to save them the trouble. High Commander Zixtel was reviewing battle plans when his ship shuddered violently. Alarms screamed across the bridge as officers scrambled to their stations. "Report," he roared. "Sir, we're under attack." "Multiple contacts, weapons fire from— I don't understand these readings." The main screen lit up with tactical data that made no sense. The human ships weren't firing energy beams or projectile weapons. They were doing something else. Something that bent space around their targets and made matter simply stop existing. "Return fire. All ships engage the enemy." The Confederation fleet responded with overwhelming force. Thousands of vessels unleashed their most powerful weapons at the human ships. Energy beams that could crack planets, missiles that could destroy moons, particle cannons that had leveled entire civilizations. The weapons passed harmlessly through the human ships as if they weren't there. "What is this technology?" Zixtel demanded. His science officer stared at readings that violated everything he knew about physics. "Sir, I think they're phasing in and out of normal space-time. Our weapons can't hit targets that don't exist in our dimension." Before Zixtel could respond, 3 more Confederation destroyers simply vanished from the tactical display, not destroyed, erased as if they had never been built. "All ships fall back to defensive positions," he ordered. But there were no defensive positions. The human ships appeared wherever they wanted, struck without warning, and disappeared before return fire could reach them. It was like fighting ghosts that could kill. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold from her command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The tactical display showed the Confederation fleet in complete chaos, their formation breaking apart as ships tried desperately to hit enemies they couldn't see. "Phase 3 vessels are reporting successful strikes on priority targets," her aide announced. "Confederation command structure is falling apart." "Good. Begin Phase 4 operations. I want their supply lines cut and their communication networks down within the hour." "Yes, ma'am." "Should we reveal the dreadnoughts yet?" Chen smiled coldly. "Not yet. Let them think what they're seeing now is our main force. When they adapt to fighting phase ships, then we'll show them what real human engineering looks like." In space, Captain Maria Santos piloted her ship through what she privately called the Dance of Death. Her vessel existed in normal space for exactly 0.3 seconds at a time, just long enough to fire its primary weapon before shifting back into the phase dimension. To outside observers, her ship appeared as a flickering ghost that brought death wherever it touched. Target acquired. her weapons officer reported. Confederation heavy cruiser bearing 27 Mark V. Fire. The weapon that struck the alien ship didn't explode it or burn through its hull. It reached into the vessel's power core and convinced the matter there that it no longer wanted to exist in its current form. The result was a cascade reaction that turned a kilometer-long warship into a brief flash of light. Another one for the scorecard, Santos murmured. How many is that now? 47 confirmed kills, Captain. No damage to our hull, Santos nodded. Her ship was one of over 200 phase vessels engaging the Confederation fleet. Each one was crewed by humans who had trained for decades for this exact battle. They moved through space like predators, striking and vanishing, leaving terror in their wake. But the phase ships were just the beginning. As the Confederation fleet struggled to adapt to fighting enemies they couldn't hit, humanity revealed the next level of their technology. Ships that had been invisible suddenly became visible, dropping out of stealth fields that had hidden them for hours. These weren't the sleek, ghost-like phase vessels. These were monsters. The dreadnoughts were each the size of a small moon, covered in weapons that human scientists had spent a century developing. They moved slowly through space, not because they couldn't move faster, but because they didn't need to. Nothing in the galaxy could threaten them. Zixtal stared at the tactical display as 5 of these titans appeared around his fleet. His computers couldn't even categorize their energy signatures. The readings were simply marked as unknown, threat level maximum. Sir, his communications officer whispered, we're receiving a transmission from the lead dreadnought. The screen activated to show a human male in military uniform. He appeared calm and professional, as if he were discussing the weather instead of commanding a weapon of unimaginable destruction. Confederation vessels, the human said pleasantly. My name is Admiral Harrison, commanding officer of UES Prometheus. You are hereby ordered to surrender immediately. Any ship that attempts to flee or continue fighting will be removed from existence. You have 60 seconds to comply. Zixtal found his voice. You cannot threaten the entire Confederation. We have reserves, allies, backup fleets. 50 seconds, Admiral Harrison interrupted. This is impossible. No species develops this kind of technology in 2 centuries. 40 seconds. I should mention that our long-range sensors show your backup fleets beginning to move toward this system. Don't worry, we have ships waiting for them too. The High Commander's blood ran cold. You knew about our reserves? 30 seconds. Commander, we've been watching your civilization for over a century. We know about your military bases, your shipyards, your secret weapons projects, and your plans for human extinction. We know because we wanted to know. Because we've been planning this war since before your scouts first entered our space. That's impossible. 20 seconds. The truth is, Commander, you've been dancing to our tune since the day we made first contact. Every diplomatic meeting, every trade agreement, every intelligence report your spies sent home, we controlled all of it. We wanted you to see us as weak and divided. We wanted you to attack us. And we wanted you to bring your entire fleet so we could end this threat once and for all. Zixtal's mind reeled. You manipulated us into starting this war. 10 seconds. Wars have 2 sides, Commander. But hunts? Hunts only have predators and prey. Time's up. The dreadnought's main weapon fired once. The blast didn't destroy Zixtal's flagship. It transformed it. Matter became energy. Energy became something else. Something that existed in dimensions the High Commander's mind couldn't comprehend. In the space of a heartbeat, the most powerful warship in the Confederation fleet became a lesson in human engineering. Around the battlefield, the remaining alien ships watched their flagship die and made the same decision almost simultaneously. They surrendered. But surrender was not enough for humanity. The human ships began herding the surviving Confederation vessels into groups, not to accept their surrender but to make the next phase of the demonstration more efficient. This is Admiral Chen to all human forces. The message went out on secured channels. Begin the cleansing protocol. No alien vessel leaves this system intact. What followed wasn't a battle. It wasn't even an execution. It was a systematic demonstration of what humanity had become during their centuries of careful preparation. Ships that tried to flee found their engines failing as human. Technology reached out across vast distances and simply turned them off. Crews that attempted to fight back discovered that their weapons were now under human control. Those who begged for mercy learned that humanity had carefully studied Confederation history. and knew exactly how many species had begged for mercy from them over the centuries. The answer was many. The number who had received it was 0. When the space around Earth finally fell silent, Admiral Chen stood in her command center and looked at a tactical display that showed nothing but debris and fleeing escape pods. 5,000 of the galaxy's most advanced warships had been reduced to scrap metal and floating memories. "Ma'am," her aide reported, "we're detecting incoming transmissions from Confederation space. Multiple systems are trying to contact their missing fleet." "Let them call," Chen replied. "In fact, make sure they get a good view of what happened here. I want every species in the galaxy to see what happens when someone threatens humanity. Should we respond to their communications?" Chen smiled, and her aide was reminded why she had been chosen to command Earth's defense. "Oh yes, send them a message. Tell them that humanity accepts their unconditional surrender, effective immediately. Any species that wishes to negotiate new terms can send ambassadors to Earth. Those who refuse..." She gestured at the debris field outside. "Well, they've seen what happens to those who refuse." As reports poured in from across human space, it became clear that the battle at Earth was just one part of a coordinated campaign. Every Confederation military base, every fleet, every secret installation was under simultaneous attack by human forces that had appeared out of nowhere. The galaxy's greatest military power was being systematically dismantled by a species they had tried to bully into submission, and in the depths of space, more human ships were already moving toward their next targets. The war was far from over. It had only just begun. 3 weeks after the Battle of Earth, Confederation intelligence analyst Kethavar sat in a bunker on the planet Zephyria, sifting through the wreckage of everything her people thought they knew about humanity. Around her, the greatest minds of 12 species worked desperately to understand how they had so completely misjudged their enemy. "Show me the timeline again," she ordered her assistant, a nervous creature with 4 arms and compound eyes. The holographic display activated, showing a century of human activity. Trade missions, diplomatic contacts, colony establishments, scientific expeditions, all the normal activities of a young spacefaring species trying to find its place in the galaxy. There, Kethvar pointed to an entry from 40 years ago. Human expedition to the Barren Zone. They claimed they were studying dead stars. "The data confirms it," her assistant replied. "Long-range sensors, scientific equipment. Minimal crew. Now show me what we found when we investigated that site last week." The display changed, showing surveillance footage from a recent Confederation scouting mission. Where there should have been a simple research station, they had found a massive military installation. Weapons platforms that could destroy star systems. Shield generators that warped space itself. Manufacturing facilities that could build a fleet in weeks instead of years. 40 years, Kethavar whispered. "They've been building this for 40 years and we never knew." "It gets worse," her assistant said quietly. "Show her the Mars data." New information appeared on the screen. When humanity had first established their colony on Mars, Confederation observers had noted it as a simple mining operation. The humans were extracting minerals, building basic habitats, doing exactly what young species did when they expanded to new worlds, except they weren't. "The entire planet is hollow," Kethvar read from the report. The mining operation was a cover. They were building... "What is this? A shipyard?" "Not just a shipyard," her assistant corrected. "The largest military construction facility in known galactic history. Our estimates suggest it could produce 1,000 warships simultaneously." Kethvar felt sick. "How long has this been operational?" "Based on the construction age, approximately 60 years. 60 years. She stared at the data, trying to process the implications. They've been mass-producing warships for 60 years while pretending to be peaceful miners. The door to their bunker opened, and Director Yothgan entered. He was the head of Confederation intelligence, a being so ancient that his species had been exploring space when humans were still living in caves. His presence here meant the situation was even worse than they had thought. "Report," he commanded in a voice like grinding stone. Kethvar gestured to the displays around them. "Director, we've been analyzing human activity for the past century, cross-referencing with what we now know about their true capabilities. The results are impossible," Yothgan finished. "Yes, I've seen the preliminary data. Tell me something useful." "Sir, every interaction we've had with humanity has been manipulated. Every piece of intelligence we gathered, every trade agreement, every diplomatic contact, all of it was designed to make us see exactly what they wanted us to see. Elaborate. Kethvar pulled up a new display. Remember the Titan incident 20 years ago? Human freighter attacked by pirates near our border. Of course. We provided escort services, showed them our patrol routes, shared intelligence about pirate activity. Standard procedure for assisting younger species. The pirates were working for the humans. The silence in the bunker was absolute. The entire incident was staged. Kethvar continued. They wanted to know our patrol schedules, our response protocols, the capabilities of our border fleets. We gave them everything they needed to plan attacks on our supply lines. Yothgan's old eyes narrowed. Proof? We captured one of the pirate vessels intact last week. Computer logs show payments from a company called Terran Mining Consortium, the same company that was officially helping us hunt down those same pirates. What else? The trade agreements, her assistant spoke up nervously. All those rare metal shipments humanity sent us over the years. They weren't rare metals. They were scanning devices, microscopic transmitters hidden in the cargo. We've been carrying human surveillance equipment into our most secure facilities for decades. Yothgan moved to the central display, studying the timeline of human expansion. Show me their colony patterns. The map of human space appeared, showing settlements scattered across dozens of systems. To Confederation eyes, it had always looked random and inefficient, the chaotic expansion of a species that didn't understand strategic planning. Now overlay their real military installations, Yothgan ordered. New markers appeared on the map, and suddenly the pattern became clear. Every human colony was positioned to control a key trade route, defend a strategic resource, or threaten a Confederation stronghold. What had appeared to be random expansion was actually the most sophisticated military deployment in galactic history. They've surrounded us, Kethvar breathed. For 70 years, they've been slowly, systematically surrounding our entire civilization. The Luna Conference, Yothgan said suddenly. 15 years ago, humanity's first major diplomatic initiative. They invited representatives from every major species to tour their system. I remember, Kethvar nodded. They seemed so eager to show off their achievements. Very open, very transparent. They were scanning us, the director realized. Every delegate, every ship, every piece of technology we brought into their system. They learned everything they needed to know about our capabilities, our weaknesses, our military doctrines. Sir? The assistant interrupted. There's more. Show him the AI analysis. A new section of data appeared. We've been running computer simulations, trying to determine how long humanity would need to develop the technology they've demonstrated. Best case scenario, assuming they started from scratch, 300 years. But humans have only been in space for 2 centuries, Kethvar protested. Exactly. Which means either they had help from some unknown advanced civilization or they didn't start from scratch, Yothgan finished grimly. Show me the deep history files. The most classified section of Confederation records appeared on screen. Information about ancient civilizations, extinct species, mysterious ruins found throughout the galaxy. Here, Yothgan pointed to an entry. The Architect ruins on Kepler 442b, discovered 50 years ago by a joint Confederation human archaeological expedition. I remember the reports, Kethvar said. Advanced technology but completely alien. Nothing we could understand or reverse engineer. The human team said the same thing, claimed they found nothing useful. Yothgan's expression was grim. What if they were lying? You think they found something? I think they found everything. The architects were legendary even among the eldest species. If humanity gained access to their technology, it would explain how they advanced so quickly, Kethvar realized. But sir, that would mean they've been planning this war for longer than our oldest records, Yothgan confirmed. Show me the Sol system archive footage. The very first time we detected human space activity, the display shifted to show grainy sensor data from over a century ago. The first human satellites, primitive space stations, early interplanetary missions, computer-enhanced Section 7, subsection 12, the image sharpened, showing what appeared to be a simple communication satellite orbiting Earth. That's not a communication satellite, Yothgan said quietly. Computer, run a detailed scan using current sensor protocols. The AI analyzed the old footage with modern detection methods. Slowly, a different picture emerged. Hidden within the primitive satellite were components that shouldn't have existed for another century of human development. They were already advanced when we first discovered them, Kethvar whispered. They just made sure we couldn't see it. The question is, Yothgan said slowly, how long have they really been watching us? As if summoned by his words, their communication system activated. The screen showed a human woman with graying hair and sharp eyes. She wore no uniform, no insignia of rank, but something about her presence commanded immediate attention. Director Yothgan, she said pleasantly, my name is Dr. Elena Vasquez. I believe you've been learning some interesting things about my species. The Confederation intelligence team stared in shock. This was supposedly a secure facility, protected by the most advanced encryption and shielding in the galaxy. How did you... Yothgan began. Oh, we've been listening to your conversations for quite some time now. Dr. Vasquez interrupted. We know what you've discovered. We know how it makes you feel. And we know you have questions. You manipulated us into starting this war, Yothgan accused. No, Director. We manipulated you into revealing your true nature. You see, we've been studying galactic history for a very long time. We know about the hundreds of species the Confederation has pacified over the millennia. We know about the forced relocations, the cultural extinctions, the genocide disguised as civilization. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward slightly. We've been preparing for this war since the day we learned what you really are. Not because we wanted to fight you, but because we knew that eventually you would come for us, just like you've come for everyone else. What do you want? Yothgan demanded. 6 months after the war began, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The Galactic Confederation, which had ruled space for 3,000 years, no longer existed. In its place stood the human Commonwealth, with Earth at its center and former Confederation worlds either under direct human control or begging for protectorate status. Admiral Sarah, Chen stood in her new office on what had once been the Confederation's capital world. Through massive windows, she could see construction crews working to rebuild the city according to human specifications. The alien architecture was being carefully preserved, but modified to accommodate the new reality of galactic politics. Ma'am, her aide announced, the Zephyrian delegation has arrived for the surrender ceremony. Chen nodded, adjusting her dress uniform. Today would mark the formal end of organized resistance to human rule. The last independent Confederation stronghold was finally admitting defeat. Send them in. The delegation entered her office with the broken posture of beings who had lost everything. Director Yothgan led them, his ancient frame bent with exhaustion and defeat. Behind him came representatives from 12 species, each one a former member of the Confederation's ruling council. Director, Chen greeted him politely. Please sit. The aliens arranged themselves in chairs designed for human anatomy, another small reminder of who controlled this galaxy now. Yothgan looked up at Chen with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. Admiral, he said quietly, we're here to discuss terms. Terms? Chen's expression was genuinely puzzled. Director, I think there's been a misunderstanding. You're not here to negotiate. You're here to surrender unconditionally. Surely there must be some arrangement. The same arrangement you offered to the Veltar when you conquered their homeworld? Chen interrupted. Or perhaps the terms you gave the Yithran Empire before you exterminated their entire species. Yothgan's shoulders sagged further. Admiral, I understand your anger, but surely... You understand nothing, Chen said, her voice still perfectly calm. You spent 3,000 years conquering, enslaving, and exterminating species across this galaxy. You turned entire civilizations into footnotes in your history books, and now you want mercy from us? She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. Do you know what the difference is between us and you, Director? Please enlighten me. Efficiency. When you conquered a species, you did it slowly. Decades of war, millions of casualties, planets turned to glass. You made it messy because you enjoyed the suffering. Chen turned back to face them. We ended your 3,000-year empire in 6 months. Clean, precise, minimal collateral damage. We didn't destroy your worlds, we liberated them. We didn't enslave your people. We offered them better lives under human protection. And those who refused your offer chose their own fate, Chen replied simply. The Kronar hegemony decided they would rather die fighting than live under human rule. We respected their choice. The Thanix Collective chose to retreat to the Galactic Rim rather than surrender. We let them go. The choice was always theirs. A younger alien, a female from a species Chen didn't immediately recognize, spoke up nervously. "What about our homeworlds? Our families?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Your families are safe. Your worlds are being administered by human governors, but your people retain their cultural autonomy as long as they follow Commonwealth law. Many of your species have already begun applying for Commonwealth citizenship. You're assimilating us," Yothgan accused. "We're offering you the chance to be part of something better than what you had," Chen corrected. "The Confederation ruled through fear and oppression. The Commonwealth governs through opportunity and growth. Any species that proves they can contribute to galactic peace and prosperity is welcome to join us as equals. And those who can't prove it are protected as clients until they can." Chen returned to her seat. "Director, we studied your civilization for over a century before this war began. We know exactly how you operated, how you identified species that might threaten you and eliminated them before they could grow strong, how you kept your client races weak and dependent, how you maintained power through carefully managed conflicts and controlled scarcity." She pulled up a holographic display showing the galaxy before and after the war. "Under your rule, galactic population growth was stagnant for 1,000 years. Technological advancement was artificially limited. Entire regions of space were kept empty to serve as buffer zones. You turned the galaxy into a prison. The after-image showed something very different. Trade routes that had been restricted were now open. Dead systems were being colonized. Research stations were being built in regions that had been forbidden for centuries. Under human administration, galactic population has grown by 3% in 6 months. We've opened 17 new trade routes and established research partnerships between species that hadn't spoken to each other in millennia. We've begun terraforming projects that will create habitable worlds for refugee populations from the war zones. You make it sound like we should thank you for conquering us," one of the aliens said bitterly. "You should thank us for ending the Confederation before it destroyed what was left of galactic civilization," Chen replied. "Your empire was dying, Director. Population decline, technological stagnation, resource depletion caused by inefficient distribution systems. In another 500 years, you would have presided over the collapse of spacefaring civilization entirely. That's speculation. That's mathematical certainty. We ran the projections." Chen gestured to her aide, who brought up new displays. "These are computer models based on Confederation economic and population data. Without major systemic changes, galactic civilization would have collapsed within 6 centuries, possibly sooner if the Kronar had succeeded in developing their doomsday weapons." The aliens stared at the projections in silence. The data was undeniable, even if they didn't want to accept its implications. "So you see," Chen continued, "this wasn't really a war of conquest. It was an intervention. We couldn't allow your empire to continue destroying the galaxy's future. And you decided this unilaterally," Yothgan said, "without consulting anyone else. Would you have consulted us before exterminating humanity?" Chen asked pointedly. "Would any of your client species have been given a vote in their own conquest?" She stood again, this time moving to a wall display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Human ships moved freely between systems that had been cut off from each other for centuries. Construction projects were underway on dozens of worlds. Scientific expeditions were exploring regions that had been forbidden under Confederation rule. "Director, in 6 months we've accomplished more galactic development than your empire managed in 6 centuries. We've ended 3 ongoing conflicts between client species, opened negotiations for the peaceful resettlement of the Veltar refugees, and begun the process of restoring damaged ecosystems on 17 conquered worlds. All under human control," one of the aliens pointed out. "For now," Chen agreed, "but not forever. As soon as each species demonstrates they can govern themselves peacefully and contribute to galactic stability, they'll be given full independence within the Commonwealth structure. And if they can't, then they'll remain under protection until they can." Chen turned back to face them. "Director, we're not interested in ruling an empire. Empires are inefficient and ultimately self-destructive, as your own history demonstrates. We're building something different, a commonwealth of independent species working together for mutual benefit, with humans in charge, with humans providing leadership and protection, while others learn how to participate constructively." Chen returned to her seat. "Some species are adapting faster than others. The Altarians have already elected their own planetary governments and begun contributing to Commonwealth defense forces. The Sephira have established successful trade partnerships with 6 other species and are developing new technologies for the common good. And those who refuse to adapt are welcome to emigrate to the Galactic Rim, where they can build whatever kind of society they prefer, as long as they don't threaten their neighbors. Chen's expression became stern. What they cannot do is return to the old ways of conquest and oppression. Director Yothkin was quiet for a long moment, studying the displays that showed his former empire transformed beyond recognition. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "What happens to us now? That depends on you," Chen replied. "Species that cooperate with the transition process are being offered full participation in the new galactic government. Those that prove particularly valuable partners may even be offered positions in the Commonwealth leadership structure. And those that resist are given the choice between exile or re-education." Chen's tone remained pleasant, but there was steel beneath it. "Director, we're offering you the chance to help build something better than what you had. The galaxy can be a place where species grow and thrive instead of merely surviving, where technology advances for the benefit of all instead of just the powerful, where conflicts are resolved through negotiation instead of extermination." She gestured to the window, where alien and human workers could be seen collaborating on construction projects.